overview, a summary, and then some of the things that are going on with CAP that you might be interested in that have been changing. COVID affected us a lot like it did everybody else in the world, and but now we are pretty much in full recovery except for just one of our programs that we may not. But so CAP is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's an outreach. It was began and continues to be an outreach of Blaine area churches, and we provide benevolence or social service type help to people in the community. Blaine, Birch Bay, Point Roberts, and Custer. We serve that area because many years ago it was deemed, and it still is pretty frequently, and we just a little bit talked about it, is the northwest corner of the county is just quite a ways away from where most of the resources are in Bellingham. And so these pastors put this program together to help some of the marginalized and people experiencing poverty and crisis in our community, so we weren't quite so dependent upon resources outside the community. We do, I mentioned it is a church cooperative, but we do have great opportunity for people outside of that church community. There are many people in the community that want to help others, lots of organizations that want to help others, so it's open to people outside church communities. The fact of the matter is that the needs are great enough to where there's not enough people in the church communities to even staff the amount of stuff that we do. So we function more like a community cooperative than just a plain church cooperative. We do have a few programs that I'll just give a little overview about. Crisis assistance is one of them, and back during the beginning of COVID, when everything was shut down, we had to shut down about half of our programs just because we could not guarantee the protocol compliance and even having enough volunteers. A lot of our volunteers are either retired or close to retired, and so they were deemed a vulnerable group. So we did have to shut some things down. But like I said earlier, now we are pretty well back into full swing. The crisis assistance team played kind of a critical role during, most of you might be familiar with this, is there was a utilities moratorium. There was a rent and utilities moratorium for nearly 2 years, and we typically help people with utility bills, and that moratorium actually got people way behind in some people way behind in many of their bills. We typically would see a need for maybe a couple $100 to several $1,000s in some cases. People either took advantage of the moratorium or they really were in desperate straits. So we cooperated with the city and the Opportunity Council and a few others to try and clear that backlog. In the city of Blaine, there was like 170 people that were behind on their bills that were looking at shutoffs, and we served the Birch Bay area, and there was almost equivalent number out there that was looking at that, but we managed to get through all that between the three of us. That was our big deal for the 2 years of COVID. We are looking at now, and this is the current situation, with inflation ramping up so high that we're seeing we're seeing some need to help people because of inflation. And actually there's several people who were able to get loans from utilities to help with their bills that are having trouble paying their loans. So we expect that inflation is going to create a bunch of needs this year for CAP. And as I go along, if a question pops up, just holler out and I'll get to it. I won't wait till the end. Another thing.
What does your crisis assistant cover?
Huh?
What does your crisis assistance cover? I know utility bills.
Yeah, so we help with utilities is about 75% of what we do. We help with transportation, fuel. We don't provide rides or anything like that, but sometimes people are in very desperate need. The example I always give, which I need to find another one, is oftentimes somebody will have a sick child that needs to be in Seattle Children's Hospital, and they got to go back and forth a lot, and that's a lot of expense for them, and they need some help. We do help some with prescriptions, but we've done firewood, we've pulled a motorhome that was stuck in a field out onto the road. Some people that a good farmer let them live there over the winter, and when they went to get out in the spring, they were stuck, and they weren't able to afford to get unstuck. So there's a variety of things. The things we don't do, we don't pay fines, and we're currently not able to help with any kind of rent or housing assistance. We probably get 2 or 3 calls a month asking for that, though. And it's just too big a bite for us from a financial standpoint currently. We may look at that, but basically we're not in the business like for suicide prevention or something like that. Our crisis assistance is primarily financial or physical type stuff. But if a person has a need, they can call us. About 1/3 of all of our activity is referrals to other agencies that when we can't do something about it, we'll refer them. So we're willing to look at just about anything you have a need of. The clothing bank is another operation that we do, and we currently have about 45. We get about 45 visits a week from people who are in great need of clothing. Clothing is one of those things we subscribe to the kind of the trickle up theory. So if we can help people with food, and we can help people with clothing, and we can help people with some of these incidental issues like keeping the lights on, that frees up resource typically for people to be in a better place to pay for rent and do some of the more pressing things, pay their mortgages and stuff like that. And the clothing bank is one of those operations where probably 1/3 of the people that come in have a desperate clothing issue, a need, and then there's probably 2/3 of them. I wouldn't say it's a shopping alternative to them, but it really helps out stretch their budgets. And we do get occasional homeless person that needs a full set of clothes. We're in that business. We do get people that are stranded at the border. That's another thing we do with our crisis assistance too. Oftentimes people will not realize what it takes to get into Canada, and they get stranded at the border. They spend everything that they had to get here thinking that they could get in, and then all of a sudden they can't. So we help them. Sometimes it's a bus ticket to get somewhere else. Sometimes we'll keep them overnight for a couple nights so they can look for the resources they need to get back out of here. We do a winter coat drive. We typically bring in about 600 coats, and we give out about 370 of them during the fall, and then we keep some in reserve to hand out during the winter for other people, and then sometimes we will donate our leftovers to other ministries, other agencies that have a need for that. One of the programs we did start up at the beginning of COVID, what we call our Food Connection program, and we currently help about 15 families a week with that. This is we were approached by the Sustainable Connections people and the Miracle Food Network people to say, is there any way that you can help us get food that was destined to waste? And this is food, this is prepared food, like restaurant overcook, places like Starbucks that maybe had prepared sandwiches that day that they didn't sell. This is not things that a food bank typically handles. Food banks typically handle shelf-stable food, or sometimes fresh stuff if they get it. But most of the time they're designed for food that you can take home and you can use it when you want to. The kind of stuff we're talking about really needs to be consumed right away. So, and we get enough of that where we're helping about 15 families a week. We were up to, in the middle of COVID, we were up to about 50 families that took advantage of that, and we don't care if you get food anywhere else, so it's not like we need to protect it. So some agencies, some places, they won't let you like get something at the food bank or get something from them. We don't care about this. This is our food rescue program as well as helping somebody. So preventing waste. We do in November we do a Thanksgiving basket program. We create a full meal, and the turkey and all of the fixings, a box for about 250 families. This year we're going to be really challenged because there's a turkey shortage in the nation. We typically have to, in order to get those 250 turkeys in November, we have to order the 1st of May. And and all of we typically have gotten them from Costco, but neither Costco or Cost Cutter or anybody will commit right now, so we're not going to do tofu. But I don't know what we're going to end up with for turkeys. We give fresh turkeys. We don't give frozen turkeys, but this year we might have to think about that. Adjust our program to give it out a week early or something if we can't get fresh turkeys. And the reason we give out fresh turkeys is because a lot of people don't have the means. A lot of people we serve either don't know how or don't have the means of thawing and preparing under those circumstances. Another program we have is a community toy store. Last year we helped about 145 families, which is 374 kids. We don't know that, we suspect that number will grow a little bit this year. We do kind of look at the demographics of our community, the demographics of the Blaine school system, and we have some idea of how many families might need this kind of help in a typical year. This year might be a little bit different because of this high inflation rate, so we don't know exactly how many we'll expect. This program has grown about 10% the last few years. We've only been doing it for 3 years, but we're pretty close to the numbers that we would expect. And this program works different than other Christmas charitable gift programs. And there's nothing wrong with anybody's program, but this program is designed specifically to let these parents buy their gifts for their own children at a significantly reduced rate, like 75%. We charge them 25 cents on the dollar, and they're able to, for a very little amount of money, they're able to shop for themselves rather than be dependent on somebody else giving them a gift. And the reason that we got interested in doing it, we were approached again by some people because this is a very dignity-enhancing program. It's designed for giving parents the dignity of doing the shopping, paying what little they can, and so it's been delightful to watch the response of parents. And any extra toys that we have, last year we were able to, we had a few that we could donate to the flood victims in the East County, and we do have some other charities that we partner with a little bit and help them out as well. The program that we started just this last year is actually a chaplain ministry. One of the things we found in both COVID and its residual is there was some need in the community for both emotional and spiritual support. And when I say that need, this is not, well, in some cases it is serious mental health, but I'm not talking about therapeutic mental health type situation here. This is basically people who just need some emotional and spiritual support. And we have four chaplains that we utilize, and they're plenty busy. And we partner with a few other agencies in the area too. Love Inc. will sometimes send us people to our chaplains if they've received a call from somebody in our area that we serve that needs some follow-up or something like that. They will contact our chaplains, and other people in the community will contact our chaplains, and some people contact them directly. So that is a ministry that will probably increase as we can, because there seems to be a need there. The other thing good thing that happened to us during COVID was we were given a building. A church that decided to disband donated their complete building to us. So that was a real blessing, and we are able to operate out of there now with most of our programs, or some of these programs that take up more room than we have. So we do have to find other places in the community to do that. But for the most part, we're able to do most of our business out of the location that we're in. So we call it the CAP Center, and we do use that facility for some of the other people that we partner with, like for instance, Whatcom Dream out of Bellingham does a financial empowerment class that we host at our building. There's another group called People of Addicted Loved Ones, the support group there that meets in that building. So it's open to anything that's pretty much missional, our mission relevant meetings and education. The one program that we did have to shut down because of COVID that we haven't started, and we probably aren't going to start anytime soon, is one that was very popular in the community, very useful. It was community meals, where once a week we had actually 9 teams that each took a week to supply a meal at the senior center for anybody who would come, and we would typically feed 100, sometimes 140 people. Probably out of that 140 people or 100 people, 25 of them maybe had some food urgency, some real food urgency. And about 25 of them were like me, who didn't need to be there, but it was part of being a community event.
Any chance of that reviving? I was there every week.
You were there every week, yeah. And you're testifying that it was a pretty good thing.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then so there was a number of us who were there because we weren't food urgent, but we wanted to be part of the community, support it in that way. And then there was a big bunch in the middle. About 50% of all the people that came from a variety of reasons that weren't really the targeted when we started the program, but it turned out to be. So we had lots of seniors that came because of the socialization aspect. We had single moms that came. One that I had sat down and had dinner with, she's talked about how much she really liked the program because she had a job, but they were not able to go out for dinner at all anywhere. They couldn't afford to do that. And she loved bringing her kids. They loved the food, and she could actually have a conversation with other adults. And so there was a variety of needs that were met with that program. So now to answer your question, there's several things that would have to happen. We don't know yet what the relationship with the senior center will be in the accessibility. But the other thing is, right now we're not sure that we could get enough teams to pull it off. The team strength, most of the churches and even the businesses. We had 7 churches that volunteered that had teams, and then we had 3 businesses that produced teams as well. And so we don't know I know for sure that about half of them wouldn't be able to do it right now. So, but that's not to say we won't do it again, because it really was a enjoyable thing. All right, so that was kind of overview of the programs. I did put on the sheet of paper you're looking at a few other notable principles that make us sort of distinctive as a charity. And once again, I'm not critical about anybody's organizations, but we things that we sort of promote, and these are just a handful of them. So we look at neighbors, we help neighbors, they're not projects. So we believe that everybody is deserves worthy of dignity, and so we don't approach them as just somebody to be fixed or some situation to be fixed. We view them as neighbors to be cared for and loved. We are an all volunteer organization completely. We have no paid staff, don't intend on having any, so the responsibilities are broadly distributed in this organization. It does have some challenges because it's not always as efficient, but it gives a very broad participation level in the community. And all these programs combined throughout the year, there's probably, there's close to 300 people that get a chance to help in some fashion in this organization. And we have to turn a lot of people away. I mean, especially the holiday ones, the Christmas ones. Everybody wants to see people get toys. So we oftentimes get a lot of volunteers for that. But in any case, it's all volunteer. We don't receive any government funding. We believe our principle is neighbors helping neighbors. The care, so the whole concept of it in its design is that it's neighbors caring for neighbors, not just where can we go find funds to do stuff. Now, I'm not saying that I'm against that. I'm just saying we choose not to do that. It's sort of a sharing economy. People donate for every bit of clothing that goes out. Last year we gave out 20,000 garments. So everything that goes out, somebody has to bring something in. So there's a lot of people who are able to donate and help and share. And we are very thankful for the community support we have. We have a lot of community support, and we're very thankful for that. We do have a policy of we don't do like really formal recognition programs for businesses and individuals. Like we don't have anything like the gold and silver, bronze donation level stuff, and we're just not into that. We haven't needed to do that kind of solicitation, and so it makes life simpler for us. So we do minimum solicitation. We have good relationship with the newspaper. We have good relationship with others that help us distribute, just making our needs known, making the needs in the community known, and people have been very responsive. One of the philosophies is that and if you look at the detail of these programs, excuse me, chokes me up a little. We have a desire to change unwanted and unneeded into needed and wanted, and that includes people. So anyway, we touch, probably I shouldn't use that word, I suppose, but in some way or another we help maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people in the community. In some fashion, whether it's somebody who was a guest at a Thanksgiving dinner that they wouldn't be if that box hadn't been provided, or somebody that got clothing. I just have to share a little story with you. One day, where our clothing bank used to be, I went up there on Christmas Eve. We happened to be open. That fell on the day we were open. And as I was walking in, I just wished this woman was coming out, and she had a couple of articles in her hand, and I just wished her a Merry Christmas. And she held those up and said, "It will be now." So, sorry. And then we also got a donation that came from New York City. And the reason we know it was we got it 2 years in a row. The 1 year it had $3 in it, $3 bills. And it came from New York City, the envelope was from New York City. And the reason we knew it was there is it was postmarked there. And the $3 were wrapped in a little bit of newspaper that happened to have the newspaper and the date on it. We have no idea who it was from. To this day, it happened 2 years in a row, but somebody thought that it was important enough to give even from that distance in those circumstances. So anyway, that's all I have to share with you today.